Hey guys, sorry it's been so long since my last video. Today I want to talk about hormones. So I've been on HRT for a little over 10 months. Initially I was put on spironolactone, which is a testosterone blocker, as well as ethinyl estradiol, which is a synthetic estrogen in pill form. And I was put on 4 milligrams a day, 2 in the morning, 2 at night. The spironolactone was 150 milligrams, 100 in the morning and 50 at night. I was on the pill form of the estrogen for a few months, and then I did some more reading and I realized that it's not really the best form to be on. It's not bioidentical, so when your body processes it, it turns the synthetic estrogen into the bioidentical estrogen that your body can then use. But that requires some filtering by your liver, and it's somewhat taxing on your liver, and can also have an increased likelihood of blood clots with that particular method. So I decided to ask my doctor, and I switched to the patch form, which is a bioidentical form. It bypasses your liver, so it's much easier on your body, and the chances of blood clots are much lower to almost non-existent, or within the range of what it would be if you weren't on hormones. So I went to patches, and I stayed on patches for about 6 months. The dosage was, I think, 0.02 micrograms. It was basically 2 big patches that went right on my butt, and it was kind of a pain in the ass, literally. They just didn't stick that well, and when you exercise a lot or anything like that, they come off and they're a pain, and just overall I wouldn't recommend them if you can get shots or injections, which is what I'm on now. So I switched to injections about 3 weeks ago, and I've liked that a lot better. Initially it was kind of scary, but I've gotten used to it. I've done it a couple times now on my own, and it's really not that bad. So the injections, I am on 20 milliliters. Yeah, 20 milliliters once every 2 weeks. So it's just like that much in a little syringe, and you inject it into, I inject it into my upper thigh. There are a few places you can, I think the back of your arm maybe, and your butt, and maybe a few other places. But it's really not too bad at all. That's also the bioidentical form of estrogen. So your body just takes the estrogen, goes straight into your bloodstream. Because it's in your muscle tissue, it's released into your bloodstream over the course of those 2 weeks. Out of the 3 that I've had, they've all kind of given a similar effect. I haven't noticed a huge difference. I think if anything, the patches and the injections have been better at keeping my mood stable. So I noticed with the pills, I noticed more, I think more mood swings. But that was also at the beginning of my transition, so it's harder to say really what the cause of that was. So now that you know kind of what I'm on and what I've been doing and how long I've been on it, I want to talk about the effects of it. And if you've read anything about this or watched other videos, I'm sure you know there are really 2 primary effects, mental, emotional ones, and then of course physical effects. And I've experienced a lot of both. The first thing that I think you'll notice when you first go on it is obviously the mental effects. So for me, a few days after I started taking spironolactone and estrogen, I noticed initially a really sharp increase in sex drive, which is funny and counterintuitive, but it lasted maybe like 3 or 4 days. And also like an increase in aggression and ease to become frustrated. And I think that was because my body was maybe upping the testosterone initially with the introduction of some of those new hormones into my body. But after that, after maybe like 3 or 4 days of that, I noticed an almost complete drop-off in sex drive. It just took a giant nosedive, and it never really recovered, which honestly has been fine by me. My sex drive certainly hasn't disappeared, it's just changed a little bit. I end up desiring different things. My sexuality hasn't changed. Maybe it's opened my eyes a little bit to things that I hadn't really realized about my sexuality, but I think the biggest thing that it changed in terms of my sexuality was the difference in the sorts of things that appealed to me. So prior to hormones, visual things were more stimulating in my mind a lot of times, which is true of most men, I think. Is they're very visual, and their sexualities are or the amount that they're turned on or how they get turned on is very much related to what they see visually. So that's why men typically look at porn, I think, a lot more than women. As I took hormones, I noticed that dropped off really significantly. So to be really candid here, I used to look at porn pretty often, and now I rarely do. It's really that's been a huge change. I very rarely do, maybe like once every couple months, whereas I used to do several times a week. So that's been a big change. The other piece of that was I started to crave more of like emotional connections or romantic situations. Those sorts of things started to appeal to me in a sexual sense that they never really had before at all. So that was a really big change. In addition to that, just I felt like I got like an instant boost in patience. So just an ability to feel calm in more difficult situations, to take a step back and not get angry or frustrated as easily as I had previously. And a lot of that I think maybe had to do with just feeling more at ease with myself and being happy that I was going down this path and that I had done something really tangible toward my goal of transitioning. But I think there's really no doubt that over the long term, hormones, estrogen and testosterone blockers do make you less aggressive. They make you a bit calmer, and they seem to enhance empathy quite a bit. So for me, that a big part of that's being able to cry. So a lot of trans women will say how much easier it was for them to cry. That's been true somewhat for me. Some at certain times in my transition than others so far, but on a whole, yeah, crying is definitely easier, but it's bigger than that. It's more empathizing with other people. So feeling what other people are feeling, caring more deeply about what other people are feeling, I think has been a big part of hormones for me, emotionally. Now physically, a ton changed. The first thing that I really noticed was like skin softening, which most people say is the first thing that changes with them. A second thing that I noticed really soon afterwards was a change in my ability to smell. So my ability to smell just became a lot better. My nose became a lot more sensitive, and especially to the smells of other people, and in particular men. Like, I never noticed this before, but men seem to have a much more distinct smell to them than women do. And I think as a hormonal male, you don't realize it, but once you get on the female hormones, there's definitely something that changes in relation to scent. So that was interesting. That skin softening was a big one. That's continued though, and it's actually evolved. So even in the past month, I've noticed even more changes to my skin. So my skin's dried out considerably. I never used to have problems with like dry hands or anything like that, and now I really do. My hands get so dry. And my face gets more dry now. I have to use moisturizer like I never really had to before. But also my skin's cleared up considerably. The only time that really changes is if right around the time when I take hormones. Like any time that I mess with my hormones or they get out of whack, that's when I'll break out. But other than that, it's cleared up my skin considerably. Body hair has diminished hugely. I used to have chest hair, arm hair, thick leg hair. All that's gone. I didn't laser any of that. I have very little body hair now compared to what I used to have. Especially on like my upper body, it's all disappeared. Facial hair, it didn't do anything for. I lasered all of that off. but it definitely slowed the rate of growth, so that was really nice. In addition to that, fat redistribution. So that's probably one of the things that's taken the longest. That and muscle diminishing. So I still have like a good amount of male muscle, I think, but this is much smaller than it used to be. I love that part of it. I think that's probably been one of the biggest factors in feminizing my body, has been the loss of male muscle. And it changes everything really about your body. It changes the way your thighs look. Now my legs just look like girls' legs. It changes the way your arms look. My neck is way thinner than it used to be, and that was one of the early changes too. I lost a ton of muscle in my neck for some reason. And then you have muscle changes in your face, which are responsible for a lot of the feminization that we get from hormones in our faces. The musculature, especially in your jaw, diminishes a lot, so you get a more feminine jaw. And then the fat redistribution on top of that changes things again. So fat redistribution in your face, you'll get more fat in your cheeks and less in the lower parts of your face, and more fat in your jawline to like round out your jawline more. And then in your body, for me, a lot of fat that used to be like, well, first of all, I gained fat. Even though I continued to work out, my body fat percentage is definitely higher than it used to be. So I gained fat in my butt, in my thighs, in my lower stomach. So before hormones, I had more fat. The fat in my stomach was more evenly distributed, and now it's more like below my belly button. So my stomach looks a lot more feminine. My chest also, fat redistributed there in addition to breast growth. So I'm pretty much like small B now at 10 months, so I'm pretty happy with that. Hopefully it'll keep going and I'll get a bit more than that over the next couple of years. But it's been, for me, breast growth has been pretty steady throughout the entire process. I'd say like maybe a week or 2 weeks into taking hormones, I first started to notice like tenderness under my nipple and breast bud forming. So just a little, like behind your nipple, you'll feel a little bit of like a hardness. And then that continued, so that little bump underneath my nipple just grew over the months and continued to grow steadily. And my chest hurt. It always hurts. It still hurts now. Every day, whenever I bump it into things, it hurts a little bit. So, but that means that they're still growing, so I'm fine with that. Other than that, I think, yeah, I mean, that's really kind of it. It's been a ton of changes, and the changes keep coming, and it's cumulative. So a lot of times you won't notice how much has actually changed, when in fact a ton has changed. So that was it. I guess I'll just stand up and you guys can see what my body looks like now. I know I don't have like a before one, but maybe I'll post a picture later, and maybe by that you'll get some kind of an idea of how I've changed. But anyway. Hi guys.